So if you have your Bibles today, would you turn to Exodus chapter 2? Exodus chapter 2, we'll begin reading in verse 15. Once you have that in hand, I want to make a statement that will kind of give us direction for this morning. If you pay careful attention to what's going on in our world, you will recognize this. We live in a world right now that is full of oppressors and the people they oppress. Everywhere you look, all around the world. Let me tell you why. Because we live in a world right now where people are severely oppressed by sin, and people severely oppressed by sin often oppress other human beings. We see that in our community, we see that in our state, we see that in the United States of America, we see that going on all over the world. I want to read to you, you don't have to turn there, but in Psalm 82, verses 3 and 4, this is what God says. I call it the 3 Ds. The 3 Ds. Very simple. Listen to what he says. Defend the poor and the fatherless. Simply put, rescue lowly people, helpless people, and weak people. Second D is this. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Simply put, stand up for those who are depressed in mind and depressed in circumstances. Third D is this. Deliver the poor and the needy literally means bring to safety those who are helpless and those who don't have the basic needs of human life. We just saw a story of that a few moments ago. If I've learned anything about Moses, I've learned this. He is a defender of oppressed people. Did it always go well for him? No. You remember, first of all, he defended one of his brethren from an Egyptian who was literally whipping him to death. Moses stepped in. Did that work out real well? No. Was it successful? He might have saved his brother's life, but it caused him a lot of trouble. It caused Moses a lot of trouble. And then you'll remember, he saw one of his brethren being beaten by another brother, another Hebrew brother. He stepped in again and probably prevented some major injury. And did that turn out well for him? No. No. He ends up on the run. So I just want to say this to you. Sometimes, I might even say oftentimes, I might even say most of the time, when we step in and help people who are oppressed, very few thank yous. Very few expressions of gratitude. Oftentimes, we will end up kind of on the short end of the stick and we'll wonder, why did I step in? Why did I fill in the gap there? Why did I defend this particular person or groups of people? That could have been the mentality of Moses. Moses is now on the run. He stepped in twice to defend oppressed people, and now he's on the run. And to be honest with you, scholars don't know quite how far he ran. It could have been 200 miles, it could have been 300 miles, or anywhere in between. But he's got to get a long way away from Egypt because there is a manhunt now to put him to death. So I don't know about you, but I've been in the ministry a long time, and oftentimes in the ministry, God calls you to step in where you don't want to step in. Because you know this is going to be costly. This is going to cost my time. This is going to cost my energy. This is going to cost me emotionally. And I don't know if I'm ready right now to pay that cost. Moses has been on the run. He ends up in a place called Midian, 200 to 300 miles away from where he's been living for 40 years. Left everything behind. Left it all behind. Now he's on the run. Does he know where he's going? I'm not not sure he knows exactly where he's going, but he knows that when I get where I need to be, God will let me know. God will let me know. So let me tell you where this picks up at. Moses makes his way into Midian. He's tired. He's exhausted. He's worn. He's worn physically, probably spiritually, emotionally, and in every possible way. He is exhausted, worn out, tired, and realizing every time I step in to defend someone, it gets worse and worse and worse for me. So notice what happens here, beginning in verse 15. When Pharaoh heard of this matter, when Moses killed an Egyptian, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from the presence of Pharaoh and settled in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. That may not sound like much to you, but he sat down at a well because at a well, at some point, you're going to meet the community members. That's where they go to take care of their water needs. That's where they go to take care of the watering needs of their animals. So he sits down, and I could just picture Moses. I'm going to sit down at this well, and I know at some point somebody's going to be hospitable and offer me water because they don't know who I am. I'm a stranger. I'm new to the area. I'm just waiting on somebody to wait on me. And lo and behold, he's sitting there, worn out, thirsty, just wants to meet a friend, just wants to find someone who will show him some goodness and kindness. And he notices 7 girls, 7 daughters of Jethro, and he notices they're being oppressed. And I like what it says. Moses stood up. That's it. Now, remember I told you, Moses, he was taught Egyptian warfare. I'm sure he knew hand-to-hand combat. So you got to picture this. The 7 daughters bringing their dad's flock down to water the flock. And Moses is sitting there, and he begins to observe something that does not set well with him. And he begins to have this righteous anger welling up within him. And he stands up. And I'm sure when he stood up, that was the telltale sign, I'm about to do something. I don't know what I'm about to do, but I'm about to get up right now. And by standing up, I'm letting you know I'm about to move and do something. Now, interesting, as you read through this, somehow, and I can't tell you, Ty is the resident theologian. I can't tell you how these girls knew that he was an Egyptian. Was it the way he dressed? I don't know. He doesn't know these people. But watch what happens here, and this is where it gets good. And I'm going to ask you to focus real carefully today, because this story, as I read through it and reread it, I got twisted up. And I'm thinking, what's really going on here? So let's go through it, as we can and see what the Lord shares with us. So he's sitting down, verse 15, by the well. Verse 16, now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. So this is you got to picture this. So the 7 daughters show up to the well, and what they have to do when it talks about drawing water, they have to drop buckets down into the well, and they have to draw the bucket back up, and then they have to go over, and they have these long troughs that are hollowed out, and they call them watering boxes, and they have to fill that long trough, or troughs plural, to fullness so that they can take care of their flocks. So I want you to picture this. The girls show up. They've drawn the water out of the well. Now they have filled their troughs, and they're about ready to let their flock water. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
So who just did all the hard work? The girls did. What did they do? They drew all the water out of the well, and then what they do, they took the buckets full, and they had to fill this long trough. How big was their flock? I don't know, but this must have taken a good period of time. So, I want you to go down to verse 18 because I want to bring this point out real quick. This is after Moses steps in. This is when the girls arrive at their home and they speak to their father. Notice in verse 18, when they came to Reuel, or his other name was Jethro, he said, "Why have you come back so soon today?" And what caught Jethro off guard was this: you don't ever get home this early. You've never done it this quickly. What was the difference today? And what I want you to understand is this: on a regular basis, these 7 daughters of Jethro were oppressed by crude and rude shepherds. So, are you getting the picture? So here's what happened. They would draw all the buckets of water. They would fill the trough. They would move their flock up to drink. And at that point, the shepherds would step in and they would drive off the girls and they would drive off their flock and then they would move their flock in. They didn't have to do anything. And apparently this happened maybe day after day, month after month, year after year. Now, if I was one of the 7 daughters, just want to be honest, I'm probably to the boiling point, but what can I do against all these shepherds? These rude, crude shepherds. Now, this is where, hey, I love Moses. I can't wait to meet him in heaven. Seriously, I got some questions for him. He may not be able to answer them, but I'm gonna ask him anyway. Look with me at verse 17. Then the shepherds came and drove them away. And in the Hebrew, to drive away means to remove people from their possessions. So not only were they moving these gals away from the water, they were driving their flocks off and removing the sisters from their own possessions. You could see it was mayhem. Absolute mayhem. And these 7 daughters could do nothing about it. Absolutely nothing about it. Look with me at verse 17. Then the shepherds came, drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them. And the word helped in the Hebrew means when he stood up, I don't know what he did. We don't know what he did. I would like to suggest to him what he should have done, but I wasn't there. But he helped them, and to help means he somehow brought safety to the 7 daughters. What did that look like? I don't know. I don't know. If you go down a little bit later, when they're talking to their father, and I find this interesting, verse 19, they said, an Egyptian delivered us from the hand of who? The shepherds. And the word delivered means to be snatched away from danger, to be snatched away from injury. Delivered from the hand meaning he delivered us from the power of these shepherds. These shepherds always had power over us. We had no power to defend ourselves. Moses stood up. He stood in the gap. And he protected us. And he protected our possessions. And he defended us. And he snatched us away from danger and injury. They're highly impressed with Moses. I don't know quite what he did. But if it was me, I know what I would have done. Verse 17. Stood up, he helped them. Men, and I love our men here. You got to love Moses. Tired, exhausted, worn out, defeated, depressed. Why would he be depressed? Got driven out of his homeland, got driven away from everything, lost everything. Why did he lose everything? Defending oppressed people. So anytime I defend oppressed people, look where I end up. If I'd have been sitting at the well, I might have been just thinking to myself, I don't think I need another situation. I think I've had enough for right now. I've been driven far enough away from my home. I think I ought to let this one go. No, he couldn't let it go. Listen, none of us could let it go. If we were sitting there and we watched this happening and we saw the oppression of these 7 sisters, we would have righteous anger and we would stand up and we would step in, and whatever it took to defend them, we'd pay the price. You say, how do I know? I know this body of believers. I know this body of believers. In Snowflake, in Sholo, wherever we go, we're going to see oppressed people. And God's going to call on us. And you might be tired. You might be having a bad day. You might be depressed. You might be worn out. You might be mentally fatigued. And you're going to be driving or walking or sitting, and you're going to see something like Moses saw, and you're going to realize that's not right. That's wrong. I gotta stand up. I gotta somehow, some way interfere into this situation. I don't know what the cost will be, but I have to do it. And in doing it, God will bless you. Seriously. He will bless you. Go further with me in this situation here. Look with me. Verse 18. When they came to rule their father, this is the 7 daughters, he said, why have you come back so soon today? So they said, an Egyptian delivered us from the hand of the shepherds. And what is more, he even drew water for us and watered the flock. So here's, not only did he rescue them, not only did he rescue their flock, but he realized, you know what? I feel a connection with these gals. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over and I'm going to bring up the water out of the well. I'm going to fill the buckets. The troughs are somewhat empty now because of what these other shepherds did. Now I'm going to step in and fill all the troughs to the full, and I will water their flock. You know what? It'd have been enough just to defend them, wouldn't it? It would have been enough just to step in and protect them. But no, he goes the extra mile, and he wants them to know, I'm the kind of man who goes the extra mile, and I will step in, and not only will I protect you, and not only will I drive off these other shepherds, I will take care of all the work you've already done yourselves, and it ended up being literally empty. I'll do that work for you, and I'll send you home to your dad. What a guy. Don't we need more people like that in our world? Seriously. I got to be honest with you. There are times I see people on the side of the road. Maybe out in front of a grocery store. And sometimes I get this prompting, I should do something, and then I talk myself into doing something other than that. And I think God, through this, is trying to get through my stubborn, hard noggin and sometimes hardened heart, that when you see those situations, the reason you see it for what it really is, my spirit is telling you, stop and do something. And do something. And then I might ask the Lord, well, I don't know what their situation is, and I don't know what they've squandered, and I don't know this, and I don't know that. Let me tell you what, when Moses walked up on this situation, he knew nothing. He just stepped in, no questions asked, because I see an oppressed human being. It's interesting that the father asked 3 questions of the daughters. Number 1, and I shared this with you, why are you back so soon? And then he says, verse 20, where is he? And why did you leave him behind? Dad just had 3 questions. Like, why are you back so early? They're telling the story. Well, where is he and why didn't you bring him to our place? And I know what he's thinking. I got 7 daughters. Might be sending one on their way. You know that's how dads think. So, verse 19. An Egyptian delivered us from the hands of the shepherds. What is more, he drew the water and he watered the flock. Verse 20, he said to his daughters, where is he then? Why is it that you have left the man behind, inviting to get something to eat? So I'm sure Jethro is thinking this. He saved your lives. He took care of the flock. He rescued you. You know he's an Egyptian. He's coming from a long distance away. He's sitting at the well. He looks famished. He takes care of you, and you come home and leave him at the well. I pray our church is not that way. Give thanks where thanks is due. Give gratitude where gratitude is due. The girls might have been a little frightened. We don't know what Moses did, do we? We know he watered, and we know he pulled up the buckets of water, but he got rid of the shepherds. How did he do that? There would have been multiple shepherds and just Moses. I'm sure Moses might have flexed the muscle just a little bit. Now, if I flex the muscle, people are going to go, that ain't stopping us. But I have a feeling Moses at 40 years of age, in the prime of his life, probably as in good a shape as he'll ever be, I'm sure he might have even given a look, and it was time for them to go. Let me read on, verse 20. Where is he? Why'd you leave the man behind? Invite him to have something to eat. And I really want to point this out. Moses, I'm reading out a New American Standard. Moses was willing to dwell with a man, and he gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses. King James Version in verse 21 says, Moses was content. Underline content. Look at what had happened to him up to this point. Everything seemed to go wrong. Everything seemed to blow up in his face. Everything he stepped in to do good, it ended up being a harm to him. And he's wondering, where's God? Why am I on the run? Why am I in Midian? Why am I faced with another oppressed people? I came out of a situation where my people are oppressed, and he must have been wondering, and it must have struck him pretty deeply that, you know what? Life is not good right now. I'm alone. I know no one. I'm in a foreign land. What is going on? And King James says he was content. You know what that means? I'm good with it all. I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to be anxious. I'm not going to fret. This situation is not one I would choose, but somehow, some way, God has placed me here, and I am content. Content meaning I'm going to be at peace and just trust God. And just trust God. You remember the Apostle Paul in Philippians? And I think this is where our church is. I don't say I think, I know this is where our church is. This is the Apostle Paul writing from a prison, chained to 2 prison guards, and he writes this, for I have learned. Some of us are still learning because we are stubborn. Do we have stubborn people here today? Any hard-headed people? This was Levi. Okay. Starts down here and starts moving up. So Paul's in prison, shackled to guards, awaiting the possibility of execution. And notice what he says. He didn't say, God just bestowed it upon me. I have learned whatsoever state I am in to be content. To be content. There he is, prison cell, shackled to guards. And he realizes, let me look back. Let me look at all that's happened. And you know what I've learned? I've learned I better just be content in whatever situation I am in, because whatever that situation is, he is in it. And if he is in it, I am okay. Amen. I am okay. That's right. So church, do I like everything that's happened in the past 3 years? No. No. Have we felt oppressed at times? Let me tell you what, we can sense the oppression of the evil one in everything that we go through. But here's what the Lord's telling me. Continue defending the oppressed. Continue taking the risk. Continue to be righteous in the midst of unrighteousness. Continue to be my light in the midst of darkness. It won't always feel good. It won't always look good. It won't always work out the way you think it will, but it'll work out the way I purpose it to, and I will bless you somehow, some way. Amen. Somehow, some way. Let me tell you what. When Moses sat down at the well, he did not know he was about to find a wife. Did she turn out to be a great wife? I don't know. There could be questions. Fact is, he got him a wife. He got him a wife. I love the service this church provides to other human beings. That was one of the first things that attracted me to this congregation, is the willingness to help people across the world. People we'll never see. People we will never know. People we'll never interact with. But somehow, some way, God is connecting us with them. And this church gives and gives and gives. And no questions asked as far as, man, how much and how long? No, this is of God. So we do it. We do it. Just as an encouragement, and I shared this, but some of you may not have been here. So, executive team, we got together and we knew this wash right up here. You know, the wash that was all messed up and causing flood issues and putting the church at risk as far as the buildings. We knew we needed to do something, so we got the executive team together, prayed about it, and came to the conclusion that we will do that and we won't ask anyone in the community to help us. We will just do this for our community. And we were at peace. We're going to put out a good sum of money, but we're not going to ask anyone. We'll just bless our community. Bless our community. So I was standing out front of the parsonage, the trailer, and a guy comes pulling up into the driveway, and his wife rolls down the window, and they go, "You're the pastor, right?" "Yes, I'm the pastor." "You're the pastor of Burton Baptist Church?" "Yes." "Well, we just want to thank you for what you did. And you didn't ask anything of any of us." And they go, "We just want to provide this Christmas gift to you." And it was an envelope. And I didn't open it then because I just didn't know what might be in it. You never know. So, talked with them for a while. They were so thankful. And they said everyone in that direction is so thankful. And after they left, I finally, curiosity gets to you. And I opened it up, and there were 10 $100 bills. And they were just letting us know, you blessed us, so we bless you back. We bless you back. This church is a church guided by the Spirit of God.
Amen.
By the Spirit of God. And I just want you to know, I don't go around bragging about you. I might say something here, but I'm not one of those preachers that goes around bragging about the congregation, because in reality, I got nothing to do with it. It's all a work of God.
Amen.
So, nothing for me to brag about. People say, that church just gives and gives and gives. And I go, hey, I just got in on it. I have no idea. I just slipped in and it was going on. Now I'm just part of the flow. You just kind of go along with it. Listen, this church has learned you will never be able to outgive God. And somehow, some way, we give and give and give and give. And he keeps going, hey, I get back, I get back, I get back, I get back. And we're like, wow, we can keep going, 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 going. God's good. God's good. Let's take care of the oppressed. Serious. As I close, I want to challenge you. Have eyes open. We did the laundromat because our eyes were open and we sensed that might be people who might need encouragement. And we go a couple times and realize most of those people spend a good portion of their day there. So keep your eyes open. God's going to use each of us. And if you see something in our community and you realize God's telling you and maybe telling us as a church, step out and do it. Let me know. I'm all about, hey, if God's leading you and there's a ministry, let's come along each other. Let's let the Spirit move us in that direction, and let's just do what we got to do. I told you this is seriously the last. So I'm working on bringing an individual here. I get an email just before Christmas, and this gentleman is an IMB missionary. I have no idea who he is. I don't know how he got Burton's name. I don't know how he got my name. It just dropped in an email. He was very personal, the way he addressed everything. He works with sub-Saharan, Ty, can you remember? Diaspora or diaspora? Which is the best pronunciation? Diaspora. So these are sub-Saharan individuals that are migrating to Europe, and they are an unreached people group. Unreached meaning nobody's really reaching out to these individuals. And so I've invited him to come here late March and share with our church what they're doing. They're on furlough. They're down in Green Valley, close to Tucson. But his name's Michael. Keep he and his family in prayer. They came on furlough because his daughter was having some issues mentally, and I think just the change of going to another country and serving in a probably uncomfortable situation. So you say, how did that happen? An email that came out of nowhere, and I think I'll just answer it. I don't know where it might go, and now we are communicating, and at least I have a brother in Christ that I know better that I never knew before. So God's working in our church. Please, eyes open, heart open, hands open, and let's just continue to go and do what God's called us to do. Let me pray. Lord, I thank you for Moses being a defender of oppressed people. Lord, I thank you that even though tired and beaten down and worn down and being presented with another situation where these 7 sisters were being oppressed on a regular basis, Lord, I thank you that Moses stood up and he stood with those oppressed gals. And Lord, I pray that you would help Burton. Just stand up. Just step in. And Lord, wherever we can help oppressed people, Please show us. Please provide for us. Please give boldness. Please give courage. And Lord, please help us not count the cost, but just step out and do what the Spirit of God calls us to do. Lord, I thank you that as this church continues to give of themselves in every possible way, Lord, we've discovered you give more, far more. And so, Lord, I pray that you continue to multiply everything we give to you, our talents, our gifts, our time, our energy, our finances. Lord, I pray that we would put it all in your hands, knowing you will use all of it for the good of people in this world and for the glory of Jesus Christ. Lord, I pray as we have this moment of invitation, if there's anyone in our congregation that does not have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, the living God, I pray that they would just step forward and say, Pastor Gary, I want to know my Creator, my Savior, my Deliverer. I want forgiveness of sin. I want power